Hi, this is Alessio. Hope you're well. In this video, we're going to be taking a look at this 2-week chart of Bitcoin. I'm going to explain to you why there's something extremely important and fascinating about this chart, and an important signal, which if it happens, could have major consequences for Bitcoin in the next few months and going into next year, 2023. All right, guys, join me. Alright guys, welcome back. Now in a few minutes I want to explain to you why there are these blue arrows on my chart, and I shall explain to you the significance of these blue arrows and what they potentially mean. But before we do that though, let me first of all explain this particular chart. What you're seeing here is not a weekly chart or a monthly chart, it's a 2-week chart. So every bar here, every bar on this chart happens to be 2 weeks of price action. Okay, now the reason why I'm looking at this particular chart, because this is often ignored by a lot of analysts. In fact, most people don't even look at this particular time frame, but I think it is quite important as it may show a different dimension to the chart of Bitcoin that often we don't see. And essentially each bar you're seeing here on this chart is a fortnight. In other words, 14 days or 2 weeks. All right, guys, now here's what's interesting. What's interesting is the MACD. As you can see here, I put on my chart down here, the MACD indicator, MACD. And by the way, I'm using the standard, so I'm just using a default setting. Okay, so nothing special about this. I'm just using a default setting of 12.26.9. What I've done though on the chart is I put the zero line, I put the midline or the zero line on my MACD, as you can see there. Okay, so we shall call this the zero line from now going forward. Now, what's interesting is notice that the MACD indicator here has fallen below zero, which is not surprising given the huge decline we've seen in the price of Bitcoin over the last several months. But notice the MACD is now below zero, especially the blue line. What really matters to me is the position of the blue line of the MACD. Notice it's now below zero, and notice what's happening here. The blue line is about to potentially merge and maybe even cross over above the red line. It hasn't happened just yet, but notice they're getting very close together. So notice, as you can see here, the blue line is now getting very close now, just under the red line here on the MACD chart indicator. Now, in case you're wondering, well, so what? Well, what matters is what happens when this blue line goes above the red line. Okay, there's something interesting and special that happens when that blue line crosses above the red line. I'll give an example. By the way, in case you're wondering, this is not what I'm looking for. Okay, so you're probably thinking, well, what about this one up here? There was an example when the blue line went above the red line. Well, the reason why I'm not counting that is because that does not meet my rules, my criteria. The rule is that I'm looking for a crossover to occur below zero, or at least as close to zero as possible. So I'm looking for a crossover to occur underneath the zero line or as close as possible to the zero line, okay, even if it's above it. Now here's a really good example for you. This signal occurred, according to this criteria, back in the year 2020. Notice, in 2020, the blue line, first of all, the blue line went below zero, which again is not surprising given this huge decline that occurred back in March of 2020. But again, notice that the blue line went below zero. Then, from below zero, the blue line went and crossed over above the red line in May of 2020. And notice what the price did next, as you can see here. So by the way, I pointed this out with the blue arrow. The blue arrow shows exactly where price was when this occurred, and notice what happened afterwards. Then Bitcoin started a multi-week, and I would say multi-month rally to much higher levels. In other words, it rallied significantly higher in the next several months. The price rallied from just about 9K to much higher levels, as you can see there, over the next several months. You can see, yeah, I mean, the rest, of course, is history, as I'm sure you know, because it rallied from this level here all the way to near 60,000. Now, I realize some of you are probably thinking, well, that's great, but aren't you missing some of the price levels near the bottom here? In other words, aren't you giving back some of these price rallies? That's true. But remember, this is not about catching the exact bottom. This methodology is not about bottom fishing. Okay, it's not about trying to catch the bottom. All right, guys, let me just say that it's much more risky and far more dangerous to try and catch a falling knife or a bottom. As the trader Peter Brandt says, he's not looking for the bottom, he's looking for the chunk in the middle, that big chunk in the middle. So even though, yes, it is true, we're not catching the exact bottom here, but at least we're catching the important middle part, the chunk in the middle. So we're not getting the exact bottom here, and we're not getting the exact top, but we are getting at least that important chunk, which, by the way, Bitcoin went up several thousand points. It went up 500% from this level to the highs there. Now, let me show you the next one. The other signal occurred back in the year 2019. And notice in 2019, there it is. Notice the MACD was below zero, below the zero line. And notice over here, MACD crossed over. The blue line goes above the red line. You can see there. And that's where it occurred, right there on the price bar. The price at the time was about 5,300, I think. There it is. And then it started the multi-week rally. You can see it went from 5,300 there to near 14K in the next several weeks. Then let me show you another one. This also is quite important. Let's go back to the previous occurrence. Okay, so here's the previous signal before that. This is the year 2015. Notice after a major bear market and downtrend, look what happened here. In 2015, notice that we had a crossover on the MACD, on the 2-week chart. Again, this is the 2-week chart. Notice again that MACD, the blue line, goes again underneath the zero line. And notice again, the MACD blue line goes above the red line here, had a crossover here, and there it is on that blue arrow bar. There it is. At the time, the price of Bitcoin is about 265. Now, it did have a dip here in the next few weeks, but it then continued to rally significantly higher over the course of the next several months. And I would say actually the next few years. By the way, notice, after the crossover occurred, after this crossover occurred in 2015, then the MACD stayed positive. The MACD stayed positive all the way through until the year 2017, where it peaked. And then it crossed over in the negative direction. So, in other words, after the MACD gave us a positive signal in June of 2015 on this price bar, the MACD then stayed positive all the way through until it peaked. The price peaked in 2017. And by the way, in case you're thinking, wasn't this a negative crossover? No, it was not. I've checked this out. There was no negative crossover here at this point. It just looks like that. But actually, the MACD did not cross over below the red line there. Let me show you the previous one before this. Let's go back a little bit. There it is. Okay, this is the previous signal. In fact, the first signal that occurred. There it is, and that one occurred in 2012. Okay, in the summer of 2012. There it is. Blue line goes above the red line. Now, I know you're probably thinking, well, wasn't this above zero? Yes, it was. But here's the point: the MACD was very close to zero. Okay, so my rule is, as long as the MACD is as close as possible to the zero line, that still counts. As long as it's not too far away and as long as the price is not too much overbought. There was a MACD crossover here, and there's our signal on that price bar. Okay, and you can see then afterwards, price of Bitcoin rallied significantly higher from 2012, from about $7 all the way to about $800. All right, guys, so what this tells us is that when the MACD crosses over, let's go back to our chart. So let's go back to our current chart here on Bitcoin. All right, so this is the current 2-week chart of Bitcoin. Again, notice that the MACD, it's below zero, and the blue line has still not crossed over above the red line. So we do not have yet a positive or a bullish crossover or signal. Okay, and again, remember, the reason I did not count this one, the reason I did not include this one, is because the MACD was significantly above the zero line. So I prefer the MACD to be as close as possible to the zero line, or at least below it, when it crosses over in a bullish or positive direction, which again, at the moment, it has not done so. So guys, it's really simple. What I'm saying in this video is, just to keep it simple, is I'm going to be patient, and I'm going to wait until the MACD chart on the 2-week time frame has given us a positive or bullish crossover. At the moment, we have nothing like that. But it's getting close. Notice they're curving. Notice how they're curving together. They're flattening. Again, there's a flattening here of the MACD. They're going sideways. And I think if we should see some positive action, if that is, we should see some positive price action here, maybe a rally in the next few weeks going to December on the price of Bitcoin, that could be sufficient. That perhaps could be sufficient enough to push this blue line of the MACD above the red line, and we may potentially then get a positive or bullish crossover on the 2-week MACD from below zero. And I think if that happens, statistically and based on historical precedent, I think there's a higher probability. When this crossover eventually occurs, I think we could see a very high probability of a rally into next year, the year 2023. Again, this may happen in December. We don't know yet. I'm going to be patient and wait and see what happens. By the way, this is by no means a certainty. Again, just because it's happened and it's been positive every single time in the past, it does not mean the next time we see some kind of positive crossover, we'll definitely get a bullish rally. It is only a probability based on statistics. And again, I know some of you are probably thinking, well, doesn't that mean you're going to miss some of the lower prices? Doesn't that mean you're going to miss the exact bottom? Again, as I mentioned earlier, bottom fishing, trying to catch a falling knife, trying to catch a bottom. Again, there are more risks with that than just being patient and waiting for just a safer and much more higher probability setup, chart setup, and signal.
One final thing to mention here before I finish the video is quite important, which is this. Many of you have been asking me about our LT Elliott Waves indicator. Now, as you know, we have an indicator which I actually developed, and that's called the LT Elliott Waves indicator, as you can see here. And here's a very special offer for you. You can get our LT Elliott Waves indicator at a very special discount. By the way, the very same discount we offered when we first released this indicator. And you can go on this link you see here, leadingtrader.com/EWT, and then apply this promo code EW special. So when you enter that promo code into the box, it will take off $200 off the price for you at a very special discount price. And by the way, this offer expires at the end of November on Black Friday. All right, guys, so it's only for a limited time. And by the way, when you get the LT Elliott Waves indicator, you will also receive our new LT Elliott Waves 2.0 indicator, which is going to be released by January. That's January 2023. So you will also be included to receive our LT Elliott Waves 2.0 indicator, the brand new version for TradingView by January. And by the way, you'll get the new version, the 2.0 version, for free. So no extra charge for the new updated version. All right, guys, so you can go ahead now on this link. That is leadingtrader.com/EWT and apply the promo code. Again, EW special is the promo code, and you get $200 off the price. And again, remember, this special offer is only for the coming month of November. It expires on Black Friday. Thank you very much indeed, guys. I look forward to seeing you in the next video update. Bye for now.